people can't pay attention. And if you can't pay attention, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, then you can't think critically. And if you can't think critically, we're all doomed, right? Multitasking is... How do you like that? I know I'm going to get it for that, and apologies for anybody who I've offended with some swearing. Sorry, but it had to be said. Multitasking is crap. For decades, we have been fed this idea that you got to be able to juggle multiple complex things at one time. Bull. It's bull. Let's just get that out of the way. It's possible to do, for sure. You can have multiple things going on, but you're not good at it if you're doing that. I don't care what anybody says. The problem is it's coming back to bite us in the butt because people's attention spans going through the floor. People's ability to focus, non-existent. Critical thinking skills, poof, right? So what does that all come down to? It comes down to this constant barrage of media, of stimuli, right? Welcome to Coffee at the Crossroads. I'm Bill, and tonight I want to talk about multitasking. And it's something that I'm not sure if you can tell, but I have an opinion. How do you like that? Honestly, it's not just multitasking. It's at the root of it, what really gets me is people's ability to focus and pay attention. And that's what I am terrified for the world, to be honest, because people can't pay attention. And if you can't pay attention, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, then you can't think critically. And if you can't think critically, we're all doomed, right? You can't make good decisions. So anyway, if you're new here, thanks for joining. If you're a returning viewer, awesome. Thank you for coming back. This is a segment called Cold Hard Truth. And tonight on Cold Hard Truth, we're going to talk about multitasking. So I'm gonna dive in here. Do you remember? I don't know. When I was a kid, I don't know if you're gonna remember this or not. Maybe if you're old enough to. When I was a kid, there was a T-shirt that used to say, "I'm so broke, I can't even afford to pay attention." And I thought of that when I was prepping for this. I was like, you know what? That's people now, right? People can't pay attention. Remember when kids used to have to sit still and be quiet in church, and used to have to sit still and be quiet in classrooms, and they didn't have their smartphones, and they didn't have fidget spinners, and they didn't have all these things? Remember when you just used to have to sit there and shut up? Remember that? I'm kind of missing those days. And I know people are going to go, oh, the times are bad, and this is didn't recognize that, and ADHD is a real thing, and all this stuff. And I believe it 100%, no problem. But the reality is that there are vast portions of this population that are just barraged with media and stimuli, and they can't focus on anything, and they can't pay attention, and it's all in the name of multitasking. I hear that all the time. Oh, no, I can be on my phone while we're having this conversation. Oh, I can watch a movie while I'm on my phone. Bull. It's terrible. You don't remember, you don't actually take in anything, you're much more likely to make mistakes, and it's going to take you longer to do stuff. So this concept of multitasking is crap. And I don't know how else to say it. And I hope I get lots of comments about this. I know that people are going to comment on it, and that's fantastic because I'd love to engage. You know, I just feel like this is really killing our society. As I said before, if you can't focus and you can't pay attention, then you can't think critically. When someone says something that is obviously bull, you need to be able to think critically and go, okay, wait a minute, that isn't, but you have to be able to focus and you have to be able to pay attention. Do you see these people on the train and on the bus, and they're just scrolling with their phones, and it's just like, they're just doom scrolling over and over and over, and one more video and another thing, and there's, and there's, everything is cut into little sound bites and little snippets. And nobody actually thinks critically about anything. Nobody actually takes the time to dive deep into stuff. People don't read books anymore. Have you heard these actors that are saying, "Oh, I don't go to movies. I can't sit through a 2-hour movie." It's their livelihood, and they can't even do it. You know, they're saying, you know, I found this study 20 years ago. The average attention span was about 2.5 minutes. Now it's less than 45 seconds. Yikes, right? Yikes. So, you know, I mean, like, something's got to be done. You know, we're doomed if people can't pay attention, right? Like, how do you learn anything? How do you develop a bond and a relationship with someone? How do you actually ever become good at anything if you can't focus on it and devote time to it and to kind of sink your teeth into it, right? It's just, it's terrifying. I've got a quote here, and I want to get this right. It's from Psychology Today. Says, the human brain cannot multitask effectively. Multitasking lowers productivity, slows completion, and decreases quality. Most importantly, it leads to stress. Yeah, right there, Psychology Today. Forbes magazine says multitasking is associated with poor performance. And the American Psychological Association says doing more than one task at a time, especially complex tasks, takes a toll on productivity. And yet, why are we being told? Why are we being told, oh, you got to multitask? How often have you seen in a job description, must be able to juggle multiple complex tasks? Why? What is that about? It's about short-term gain, right? Short-term profit, or short-term, like, get this done quickly, get it done quickly. We've lost that. We've lost the desire to do things well and to learn things deeply and to actually spend time on stuff and to look for actual quality. It's just about get it done fast. Yeah, it doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be that accurate. Just get it done really fast. And that's sad, right? That's not where deep meaning comes from, right? That's not where deep learning comes from. That's not where we actually invest in things and we become experts, right? If you're just a person that's skimming over stuff quickly and getting it out the door, you never become an expert because you never learned anything. You just pressed it out the door as fast as you can, right? And that's not a route to happiness, my friends. You know, and at the root of all of this, you know, is really critical thinking. That's the thing that terrifies me most. Is if we lose that ability to think critically, then we can't make choices about our career. We can't make choices about what's right and wrong. We can't make choices about partners. We can't make choices about politics. We can't make choices about investing, about building a happy life. If you can't think critically and go, look, you know what, this is a good investment or that's a bad investment, then we're doomed, right? We need to be able to think critically, right? You know, I saw a video the other day about the stupidity epidemic, right? Stupidity is just that refusal to think critically. And part of it's a refusal. People going, look, I don't have time. I just want to listen to the soundbite. Give me the short soundbite of it. They don't want to have to dive deep into a topic. They just want an easy, a quick fix, right? But it's not just the refusal to think critically. It's that maybe they can't think critically, right? Because we've been so bombarded with media and images and ideas and day-to-day life, that just information coming at us, that we're just shut down. And it's that we're expected to multitask. We're expected to stay on top of all this stuff, but it's not possible. And as you know, scientifically, they're saying the human brain isn't really set up to multitask, right? And so that's the terrifying thing, is what does this mean for our future? If this generation falls apart because we can't think critically, then the next generation's doomed, right? And then their children are even more doomed, right? So that's the terrifying thing from my standpoint, is like, man, like, you know, where does it end? We need to claw that back. We need to take time. out of our days to think critically. You need to segment your tasks so that you get them done properly, and you develop that focus, and you develop that ability to pay attention to one thing and deeply understand it. And then when you can do that, now suddenly you've got the building blocks for critical thinking. And man, everything becomes easier from there, right? So that's my thought for the day. The cold hard truth is that multitasking is, again, apologies if I've offended anybody with some spicy language. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. This is a quick one. Cold hard truth is that multitasking is bad for you, and it's bad for your critical thinking skills. I'll just leave it there. If you're still here, fantastic. Thank you for watching. I'm Bill. This is Coffee at the Crossroads, and this has been another installment of Cold Hard Truth. Cheers.